Hello and welcome. This is Chris. In this video, we are going to go over some essential tools and knowledge for learning ZBrush. And this video is designed for someone who has never opened ZBrush or has very little knowledge of it. Before continuing with this video or watching any of the others, please make sure that you have a drawing tablet that has pressure sensitivity set up and has the latest drivers installed. Also, you're going to want to make sure that if you are using more than one monitor, that tablet is only applying to the monitor that you're going to be sculpting on. So once you have those things all set and organized, then we should be good to continue. When you open up ZBrush for the first time, you're going to get something that looks like this. So I'm going to close out of this little ZBrush homepage by clicking on the X. Now I have this. This menu right here is called the Lightbox Menu. To hide the Lightbox Menu, I can hit comma on my keyboard. Okay. So make sure I actually click here, comma. I can open it up again by hitting comma again. Now there is a lot going on with ZBrush just in terms of the UI, and it is designed specifically for tablet users, which is kind of why there are buttons and menus and sliders arranged everywhere. And it can be a little overwhelming at first. What I'm going to do is focus on just need to know information to get you up and running and sculpting as soon as possible. We're not going to get bogged down into menus or anything like that, at least not right away. However, if you are curious about anything that you see on the user interface, like what does this button do, or what is this, you can always hold down the control key and hover over something that is clickable, all right? And it'll tell you what that thing is. So just remember, control is your friend, and it will tell you what's up with all these buttons. This middle area is called the document, and it is essentially our 3D viewport. To the left, we have our brush menu and brush options, as well as color swatch pickers. Up top, we have all of these menus, most of which we won't be diving into right away. And then we have a bunch of options, again, having to do with the brush and what we're doing to our sculpt. On the right-hand side, we have navigation and viewport options for the document. And then over here, we have all of our tools. And once we actually have a 3D model in here that we're sculpting on, this will populate with a bunch more tools. I can change the default colors very quickly by clicking on this load next user interface colors. So feel free to choose one of these that you like. I'm going to stick with the default one. And everything about ZBrush is customizable. You can change any of these colors and any of these menus that you want. And sometimes while you're doing that, you can get lost. So if you ever lose a menu or change something that you don't like and you don't know how to get it back, you can go to Preferences and Configuration and Restore Standard UI, and that should fix it. Okay, let's get right into it. I'm going to hit comma to open up the Lightbox again. And I'm going to make sure I'm in this project. So this project section of the Lightbox has a bunch of projects that are essentially set up. The document is set up in a particular way, and there is a model to help you jumpstart on whatever it is that you want to do, or just explore different features of ZBrush. I'm going to go to this Dynamesh sphere right here and select it and double click on it. This immediately opens up the Dynamesh sphere default project, and now we can mess around with the sphere. So to rotate around the sphere, I can click outside of it and drag. I can drag left and right and up and down and rotate around. Especially when we're first learning ZBrush, having this much control and freedom over moving the object around can be a little bit, it's easy to get lost, I'll say, right? Like maybe we're just trying to rotate one way, but we end up underneath or on top, right? So first of all, I can see with this widget up here, this bust, I can tell which direction I'm facing, right? So now I'm looking at the front. I'm looking at a 3/4 side view, and so on and so forth. I'm looking at the bottom and the top. To make this a little bit easier, what I would recommend is over here on the right-hand side, right now we have this orange, which signifies that this rotate on all axes is turned on. Directly underneath that we have this rotate on y-axis. So I'm going to click on that, and now it's going to kind of just make things a little less loose. It's going to more easily lock to rotate from side to side. I can still go underneath it on top, but just so you know, I would recommend having this turned on. So that's how you rotate. I can hold Alt and click and drag outside of the mesh to pan around. I can zoom by holding Alt and clicking as if I were to pan, but once I'm clicking and moving around, I can let go of Alt and then move the mouse or the stylus up and down, right? So again, that's hold Alt, press down with the stylus, let go of Alt, and then drag up and down to zoom in and out. On the right hand side where it says move, I can click on this button and drag around, and that's the same as panning. I can click on zoom 3D and that will zoom as well, and I can click on rotate to rotate. So I can always work like this, but it is going to be a lot quicker if you take the time to memorize how to navigate with just the stylus without coming to these buttons. Let's say I'm zoomed in very close to my sculpt and I need to work on some finer details, and I can't zoom or pan because there's, I'm just clicking on the mesh, right? And I'm sculpting. So if I need to pan or rotate or zoom, I can hover outside of this little white box, this little white square outside of the frame, and that will be the same as clicking outside of the mesh, okay? So if I'm zoomed in really close, again, I can just click out here and drag around. If I get lost and I can't find my mesh, I can hit the F key for frame or focus, and it will pop it back in center. I can also click right here, frame. All right, so it's nice that we can open up this project and get to a sphere that we can just start sculpting on right away. Let's go ahead and learn how to make a project ourselves to get to something like this, a viewport like this. All right, here I've opened up ZBrush again so that we can get our original view. Notice that the document resolution is small and it's not taking up the entire viewport. We also have this gradient, which I am not a big fan of sculpting on. Some people like it, but at the very least we can control it. So I'm going to go to the document menu, and the first thing I'm going to do is click on this new document, and that is going to fill the entire resolution with the document, which I prefer. Next, I'm going to go to document, and here we have this, we can control the color of the background, and if I click on this range and drag it to 0, you'll see that it takes away that gradient. So I'm just going to drag that range all the way to 0. Next, I'm going to come over here to the tool palette, and where it says cylinder 3D, I'm going to click on this, and I'll choose sphere 3D. So over here we have all the tools in our current file, our current project that we're working on. I'm going to click and drag to draw this tool out, and then I'm going to hit T on the keyboard. If you don't hit T, what will happen is you will not be able to rotate, and you'll continue to make these spheres, right? You'll just keep dragging out your current tool. If this happens, you can create a new document by going to Document, New Document, and then I do not want to save, or I can hit Control N. So again, I'm going to draw this out, and then I'll hit T as in Tommy, and it goes into edit mode, and now I can rotate this around. Let's turn the floor on by clicking on the floor here. Right now, you'll see that everything looks very isometric. in odd, and that's because perspective is not on. Most of the time, we do not want to be sculpting without perspective turned on. So we almost always want to have that turned on. So I can do that by clicking right here. Now perspective is turned on. The default material for these tools is set to this Madcap red wax right here. And I'm not a big fan of sculpting on this. You can sculpt on it if you like, but I would recommend one of two other materials to sculpt on as we're learning. The first being this Madcap gray. This is what that default project had on it earlier. And the second material that I would recommend is basic material. So I'd choose one of those two. For now, I'm going to go to Madcap gray. And right now, this is a sphere 3D. I cannot actually sculpt on this yet. So I'm going to say make polymesh 3D. And now I can actually sculpt on it. And the last thing, if we want to replicate that project that we had opened up from the Lightbox, is I'm going to go to Geometry, open up Dynamesh, and click on Dynamesh. Whoops. And now we have a very similar project. In the next video, we'll go over the basics of actually sculpting in ZBrush. And I'll see you there.